So give us your overall take on this federal district court judge dismissing large portions of your counterclaims against Blake Lively, Ryan Reynolds, the New York Times, and this PR agent who represented the couple.
Sure. First of all, great to see you. And sorry to interrupt your vacation. I hope you're having a great time.
So far, so good.
Thanks. The last time I was with you actually was the last kind of disaster in LA, which were the LA fires. I think it was March 7th, and we were on together. So yet another crisis in LA, and I'm here. So I don't think there's any coincidence. But my take on what the judge did was the judge simplified things. While we're not pleased that he got rid of the defamation causes of action, the truth was the case was never really about defamation. And while it's while it's our response and while it's a portion of our claims, from the very start, this case was about somebody being wrongfully accused, and that's Justin. And it's also been about Melissa Nathan and her team at TAG, and about Jen Abel and herself, and about her being wrongfully accused about a smear campaign. And the reality is, what I believe is going on is that the judge, is getting through all of this and saying, hey, we're going to parrot this down to really what the issues are in the case. And I don't want collateral stuff going on. I just want, answers to the key questions, right? Was there sexual harassment? Clearly no. Was there a smear campaign? And that's no also. So that's what I really think when you parrot down the law and all of that to what the judge is trying to do here.
What do you make of the victory lap she and her lawyers are taking, claiming absolute vindication, calling the counterclaims basically a sham, saying the judge saw right through them, and Blake Lively out there thanking the 19 organizations who filed briefs on her behalf?
Right. Well, without getting into detail on that, first of all, the judge made clear that he didn't read the briefs. The judge made clear that he didn't rule on 47.1. Which she's going around and celebrating a victory.
Let's explain what that is.
47.1 was the California statute that is a new statute that she took the position that you couldn't defend yourself by filing a claim against an accuser concerning sexual harassment or sexual assault, which in most cases is a really important law. In most cases, it is a really important conceptual case, and it really protects the victims. But, you got to ask yourself here, who's the real victim? The real victim is Justin and the others, and it's because they've been wrongfully accused. And ask yourself, when you've been in a situation where you've been wrongfully accused, how do you defend yourself? Are you allowed to defend yourself? Are you allowed to lead with truth? Because that's all that's been done here, is putting everything out on a website, putting everything out for the public, not hiding anything, and saying, here it is. Was there sexual harassment? Was there a smear campaign?
And 47.1 seems to say, this new California law, if you're an alleged sexual harassment or sexual assault or hostile work environment plaintiff, and somebody who you've accused comes back at you saying, I didn't do it, and what you're alleging is defamatory of me, thanks to this statute, that person defending themselves saying, I didn't, and what you say is defamation, can get in a lot of trouble, potentially, could have to pay that person's legal fees if the counterclaim gets dismissed, could have to pay triple the legal fees potentially, and punitive damages. So the California statute almost makes it like extremely dangerous for someone in Justin Baldoni's position to actually defend himself against a sexual harassment complaint.
Well, it's not dangerous if you know you're right. So this case has always been about facts. It hasn't been about victory laps. It hasn't been about Saturday Night Live tours. It hasn't been about the People 100. or the Time 100. It hasn't been about the show, and it hasn't been about the misrepresentations. It's been about the facts. We've been in this case for a while now. Have we seen text messages? Have we seen evidence? Have we seen receipts? No. You've only seen them from one side, and it's been out there. And what we've seen from Blake Lively is her showing who she really is. And the truth is, that there's a famous quote that says, when people show you who they are, believe them.
Mm-hmm. Maya Angelou. Yeah. So what did you make of the judge? Because you say it's clear he didn't read the briefs. I have to say, I was surprised at some of the sweeping language in there. For example, him saying, well, Justin Baldoni, you can't really sue him. He can't sue Ryan Reynolds for defamation because when you sue a public figure, when you are a public figure suing for defamation, you have to meet the New York Times versus Sullivan standard showing that the person who defamed you did it with actual malice, meaning they knew it was false when they said it. This would be Ryan Reynolds saying false things to WME, the agency that he got to break up with Justin. So he knew the things were false, or he behaved with reckless disregard for their falsity. And the judge seemed to say, anything he heard was from his wife, so he couldn't have known it was false. At worst case scenario, he was mistaken, and therefore your claims against Justin need to be dismissed, though a couple of those have been granted leave to refile. I just don't understand that, because there is evidence that Ryan Reynolds had direct interactions with Justin, with Blake, with Taylor Swift. I don't get that part, Bryan.
Yeah, well, I think it's a nuance in the law that you're aware of, but public figures who sue for defamation have to prove malice. What the judge essentially said, as you read the order, is that there can be no malice here because the allegations arose from the CRD complaint, which is a protected document, as a legally filed document.
The civil rights complaint that she filed to kick this whole thing off and then leaked to the New York Times, clearly. Go ahead.
That's right. And we don't agree with that at all. We think there's so much collateral action that happened here factually that is outside of the scope of that document itself. For example, the New York Times said, that they reviewed thousands of text messages and made their own determination based on that. They had a video that they put together. These things are not directly taken from the CRD complaint. And the court, addressed that in its own way. The court was very matter of fact about that. I don't think generally judges or courts like when media is sued. They certainly don't like when public figures sue for defamation. The standard is higher. It does require malice. I think in this case, there's a lot of arguments on why there is malice. But again, I get back to, why are we here? And what are we really, proving here? And the truth is, it's two things. It's did he sexually harass her? And was there a smear campaign? And again, it's a bummer. And I feel really upset about the fact that, compensation in the form of damages as a result of defamation is not possible at the moment for him. I'm sure, they will both say things in the future that will bring this back to life. I have no doubt.
Right. Can I ask you about you mentioned 47.1, this law in California that kind of protects someone even alleging sexual harassment from getting sued for defamation. In other words, if the defamation case is dismissed, it gives them potentially triple their attorney's fees and costs. That could be millions and millions of dollars if the judge says it applies and Justin has to pay. Before we ever even get to discovery in this case, Bryan, does he have that kind of money? And what are the odds that the judge is going to impose that hefty a penalty on him?
I'm not at liberty to talk about his finances, but suffice it to say that I doubt many people have that kind of money. But but I think the distinction in this case is that sometimes the law does not take into account morality, and while this particular statute is a good statute in cases where it's important and it matters, and where there's someone who's bullying the victim. And I want to take that really seriously, because I think it's really important, and Justin feels it's really important. But where it doesn't apply is a case where somebody has created allegations that do not rise to the level of sexual harassment. And we now know exactly what those allegations are. We have a specific understanding of what those allegations are. We've seen video that shows exactly what happened in the scene that she said was so inappropriate. And we've seen, the text messages about coming to my trailer. We've seen evidence that directly refutes the allegations of sexual harassment. So in this case, from our perspective, there's not nearly the risk that there would be in a case where it was used for bullying. In this case, it's truly about trying to prove that you didn't sexually harass someone. And why, with his career destroyed at the moment, why is he not allowed that right to defend himself and to be able to say, this is not okay?
This administration is working very hard to try and fix this country. But while they're focused on fixing the country, they can't fix your personal finances. That's really up to you. And that's why thousands of Americans are turning to Birch Gold. In the past 12 months, the value of gold has risen by 30%. Think about that. How's your stock market investment doing? Has it gone up 30%? Have you made 30% on your money? And demand is strong and it's growing. While reports are that the BRICS nations are actively working to challenge the US dollar as the world's reserve currency, that's not great. In other uncertain times, gold has offered peace of mind, and in these uncertain times, it does the same. Birch Gold makes it incredibly easy to convert your existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA backed by physical gold. Or if you prefer, you can buy gold to store in your own home safe. Just text MK to the number 989898, and Birch Gold will send you a free info kit on gold. There's no obligation, only useful information. With an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau and tens of thousands of happy customers, take control of protecting your savings today. Text MK to the number 989898. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.